Welcome, everyone, to the Donovan Live Postgame Show right here on WKYC's Facebook Live as we kick off a new week. I'm Dave DiNatale alongside Jim Donovan. And I want to pick up with what you and Dave Chudowski and Chris Ty were talking about on 3 on 3. One of your first stories was, of course, because he's in every story, LeBron James. And in this case, we, and I put a link to it here on our Facebook Live story, like in 2014, there's not going to be an elaborate free agency frenzy. Everybody, let's crowd around the IMG Tower because LeBron's taking meetings. If we go to that point and LeBron opts out of his contract at the end of the week, it's going to be low key like it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think, and even it's probably even going to be more low key than 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Which was very different. I mean, the first time around, we had the meetings in downtown Cleveland, and the teams came and they genuflected and knelt before him and presented, gifts like the shepherds came to Bethlehem.
That's right.
I think that's where
that's it.
I think that's where they got the idea, and then they brought it.
And then
here.
they brought it. Yes.
Having said that, and they paraded through 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, and then finally the Cavs on a Saturday, and he made his decision going to Miami. Then the last time around, it was more done in Vegas.
Yeah.
At the rookie camp. And, there was a lot going at the rookie league, the summer league. And he was out there and he was taking, meetings out there. Pat Riley had a famous meeting with him. The Cavs did not, I don't believe.
No, I mean, from what I remember, Rich Paul did, a couple of conversations. I think he talked to the Mavericks here, I think. They had the conversations in Vegas. And then Dan Gilbert had the famous plane flight that we tracked going down to Miami. And he, of course, had to sit down in Miami with LeBron James. And at that point, they decided to patch things up and reunite.
This time around, here's what I think, and I said this on the news at 7, I really believe this is the new NBA. And this is the way things are done. I think the league is so star-dominated and so now super team dominated, and how to construct a super team and how to chase those who fall under the definition of being a super team anyway, a la Golden State. I think the players do all of this.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't think that there's any negotiating really that goes along. I think players get together. I mean, if you go back to the initial decision, remember, that was all put together on bus rides during the Team USA experience in one of the Olympic Games when they had finished a practice or a press media availability, and they were all sitting on the bus going back to their headquarters, and they started talking about, hey, what if you got together with me? What if we did this? Bosh, Wade, LeBron.
Right.
Maybe Chris Paul was involved and he couldn't be a part of the team at that point.
Couldn't get out of New Orleans at that point.
Right. And I think that's what goes on right now, because there are teams that can be accepting of these players and what their salaries are going to demand because they have the cap room and things like that. But there's no team that is just one person ready.
Right.
So in other words, if LeBron opts out and he decides to leave somewhere, he really must have the signal that somebody's going to go with him. Likewise, I think if he stays here, he must have the signal that somebody is willing to come here, and the Cavs have the ability to go get that player for him.
And
don't you think?
Yeah, right. And we may not know. I mean, I think for the second part of that, if he's going to stay here, he's got to have signals from the Cavs that something's there. Now, he can't talk to anybody, but as you say, it's a player-driven league, so he knows. One way or the other, I think he knows. But I don't think we may not know, even if he doesn't opt in this weekend and goes into free agency, we start, that cycle starts next week. We may still not have a clue until we see a team make a massive series of moves to clear cap space or something, or the Lakers do something. Like, I'll use the Lakers, for example, because they're along with the Cavs, I believe, the front runners. Until Paul George makes a decision or until something else happens, and then that might be your hint that LeBron's going to do something. I mean, it's all like it's a series of dominoes, isn't it?
Yeah, because I remember the first one, okay? And I can remember it was around noontime one day on the week that he finally made the decision, which was on a Thursday night, okay?
Yep.
So it was like Tuesday. I remember it was close to noon, and Chris Bosh made his decision that he was coming. And he openly went on ESPN, ESPN, I think it was, and said, hey, listen, LeBron, come on.
Join us.
Join us. I'm signing with D-Wade, and I'm going to be a member of the Miami Heat. And, effectively, that's how it was being done. I mean, they were recruiting him at that point, and LeBron knew they had Wade, they had Bosh. Now he would go there. They had their super team. And I think these are the signals you now have to watch out for starting on Friday.
Right.
What is he going to do? What's the strategy? But I don't think anywhere he goes, whether he stays here or he goes somewhere else, it's done with just LeBron in mind.
No,
There's
it can't.
Somebody else.
It can't be. There's got to be, for him to be comfortable in a situation. Now, of course, with the Cavs, I mean, he could opt in and basically say, I'm holding this organization's feet to the fire. I've got another year. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Less pressure. But yeah, if he opts out, like you said, then anything's. But it would have to be. It wouldn't just be with I'm going to resign somewhere or I'm going to sign somewhere. There's got to be parts to go with him. He can't just go. He won't just go to another team.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to go to. He's got to feel like there's a super team.
Well, I mean, think of it too. When he came back here, they had Kyrie Irving.
Yes.
He was here. So if you compare it to the Miami situation, Kyrie Irving was like Dwayne Wade. He was there. Then LeBron came, and he must have known. He must have known from the Cavaliers, whatever it takes, we'll go get Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Okay, because I mean, it was that directed.
Yeah.
I mean, even that day you could have started printing Kevin Love jerseys.
Right.
And he wasn't officially a member of the Cavaliers, but he was going to soon join them. Now, I do not think if he opts in on Friday, I don't know if he's going to opt in anyway, but say he opts in on Friday, I don't think that's because, this is no slam on this individual, I don't think it's because they drafted Colin Sexton.
No, I don't either. If he opts in, and I'm with you. I was on with my friends at ESPN Honolulu today. Every now and then they call me when there's LeBron stuff, and they asked me what's the likelihood that he's going to opt in Friday, and I said I really don't think so, just because he wants to have leverage. I mean that's how LeBron plays it, and that's why I think leverage is more important to him than even money or a supermax deal. It's having leverage. It's being able to dictate the kinds of players that can come on the team to join him, and to be able to dictate, hey, look, you either have this amount of time or I'm out of here. I'm going somewhere else.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think he wants to give up leverage. I think it's more important to him, or as important to him, is getting a supermax contract and getting more money than Steph Curry or Mike Conley or anybody else.
Right. So, I mean, here we are. I mean, I think once it hits on Friday, whatever that is, that's the first step. And then I think, all signs point and all reporting points to sometime next week we would have, a definitive answer before July 4th.
Do you think at this point we're down to basically 2 or 3 teams here for him?
I don't know.
Or do you still think that a Philadelphia, because of all the young assets they have, is still of some interest?
I don't. It seems like they would have to come a long way, and they are young, but they are young.
They are young.
Okay. When Kyrie Irving was here, LeBron had identified that Kyrie was very special.
Yeah.
Okay, and he was
he had played with him at All-Star games.
Yeah, and he was on the verge of becoming, an elite point guard in the NBA, and he knew that was true. Now, I know the kid Simmons is a good player, and he's probably going to be a great player, but he's not there yet.
Not yet.
The other kid,
Embiid.
Again, you don't know if these guys are going to be healthy in the first place. So you take a look at. I think the thing, Dino, in the wide landscape of this, the thing that seems to be the fly in the ointment is this. San Antonio, I think, is playing hard to deal with on the Kawhi Leonard thing.
Yep.
So that's the problem right now.
I don't believe Greg Popovich, and we said it last week, and I'll say it again, I don't believe he's going to trade his star player to a Western Conference team, let alone a team like the Lakers. I don't think he's in any hurry to help the Los Angeles Lakers form a super team.
Well, let's put it to other sports. If the Red Sox and Yankees in baseball, would they do a deal with each other?
No.
To help each other?
No.
Not even sometimes, even if one team is, and this hasn't been for a long time, but even if one team was going nowhere and the other team was on the cusp of being a great team, would they make a deal with each other? just out of the reaction to what that would be like. Now, I know the Browns and Steelers might not be as good an equation or a comparison in this scenario because they have made a couple of deals. But we're talking about there was a deal for a 6th-round safety,
right?
Or something like that. So it is strange, and I think it would really question the competitive credibility of the NBA if you start helping out a team that is in your conference.
Right. Well, and some people have said to me that that's why Kemba Walker right now is not a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers, because Michael Jordan is, who owns the Hornets, is not inclined to help the Cleveland Cavaliers build a new super team. Now, I don't know. I mean, I could flip back on Jordan and say, well, hey, dude, you're rebuilding. A trade like this could help you rebuild. It could expedite your rebuild, but he may not be inclined to help the Cleveland Cavaliers build super team too. I don't know.
Now, the other thing that's very quiet, aside from San Antonio, which isn't quiet, being very vocal, or the Lakers making it known that the Spurs basically hung up on them when they called them about the possibility of trading Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers. But the thing that's quiet is Paul George.
Yeah.
That's quiet.
Very much so.
Very, very quiet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only thing right now we know, like Carmelo Anthony's the only really high-profile one. He decided to opt in and stay in OKC, at least until a buyout comes. But yeah, I mean, it's been quiet. It's been very. Somebody said, I hear the Cavs are picking up Dan Daly. No, I don't think. No, Dan Daly's a heck of a singer, though. All right, one other Cavs note, and then I want to get to something that you had brought up today on Cleveland Browns Daily, or I don't know if you actually did, or did you bring it up on Browns Daily? We'll see. Your gripe about training camp preseason.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I want to get to that. But do you think, just 4 days in advance, LeBron picking up his option or not picking up his option?
I don't think he is. I think he's going to opt out.
Yep.
And we'll see what happens.
Let the games begin.
Let the games begin.
Okay. On Cleveland Browns Daily, I hope you had a chance to listen on ESPN 850 WKNR earlier today, hosted by Jim Donovan and Andrew Gribble. You brought up a point, and I brought it up here for people to react on Facebook Live as well. We're now getting into, kind of now less than, right around a month until training camp starts. So you've got a month until you're going to be spending a lot of time in Berea. Yeah, right. You brought up a point today that I think is important in this evolution of a football team trying to become relevant again. They have to change. Maybe they have to look at changing how they're approaching the preseason and training camp. Yes. And the rules, I guess what you meant by that, I'm just putting words in your mouth and apologize for that. But, normal rules of how teams approach the preseason, where you play the starters in the first game for a couple of series, in the second game maybe for a quarter or into the second quarter, then the third preseason game you play them for a half, and then the fourth preseason game everybody sits out and wears ball caps.
Right.
Maybe it's time, if you're 1-15 and 0-16, maybe you need to look at that.
Yeah, of course they will come back at me and say, well, we went 4-0 in the preseason last year. My point is this. I hear the coaches, there's a great debate in the NFL, and the customer should always be right. And there are a lot of people that are saying, hey, listen, I don't want to pay for those preseason games.
Right.
I don't want to have to pay regular season prices for a very, very watered down, depleted level of talent that's going to be put and performance that's going to be put out on the field. That's point number one. So I get that. So then there have been these calls for, well, let's eliminate one of the games, or let's eliminate two of them, and you only play 2 preseason games. And of course, the NFL then says maybe we play 18 regular season games. Yeah. Now that's not my fight. Okay, my fight is this: that I hear the coaches fire back all the time, no matter who is in that office, in Berea, and probably other places, and say, no, we need the 4 games. We need the 4 games. And yet, I look at the way they coach those games and who they play, and like you say, who they don't play,
right,
and how much those regulars play, and then I watch this football team that's only won once on opening day since they've come back in the NFL. They are 1-18 in games going into this next one against Pittsburgh, and I say, you got to do it a different way.
Right.
Okay.
It's not an indictment of Hugh Jackson specifically.
No.
Everybody's done this. Everybody.
Yeah,
going back to Chris Palmer.
Chris Palmer, Butch Davis, you name it. Pat Shurmur, you name it.
Romeo.
And there are times, Dino, during this period since 1999 where I have had Browns quarterbacks who were going to be the starting quarterback on opening day say to me, I have to tell you, this is on the opening week of the season, like on the Wednesday when they talk pre-walk up to the first game, say, I don't know if I played enough in the preseason.
Right.
I don't know if I'm ready. I remember Jake Delhomme saying to me, I hope I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready. And sure enough, he threw like a pick for a 99-yard interception by Rondé Barber, and they ended up losing the game in Tampa. I watched last year at an offensive line that at least payroll-wise was right up at the top of the NFL, okay? But none of them played together during the preseason. And I get it. Joe Thomas was getting all these veteran days off, and he didn't play until the third preseason game. But they were very, very careful with Bitonio. Zeitler missed a little bit. Treader missed a little bit of time. Then they went into the opening game of the season with a rookie quarterback, okay, who was, like all rookie quarterbacks, is going to hold on to the ball too long. We know that. And that offensive line did not get its job done until starting maybe the fourth game of the regular season. That's too late.
Yeah. By that time, a quarterback is in shell shock mode.
Yeah, but the other thing is, I just don't understand why somebody with all of these specialists that they have and all of these studies that NFL teams do on practice time and how much we're regulated to be able to make contact in practice because of the CBA agreement, that somebody doesn't say there's got to be a better way to do it. Now, I understand New England, hey, they can do whatever they want to do. They know how to do it. I understand that, really Roethlisberger plays very little, if any at all, during the preseason. But they're in a different boat than we are.
Right.
Okay? So I think that they have to use these games. I think you got to play these guys a little bit more.
Yes.
Plus, this is going to be a new offense once again. Okay? And, you're going to have a lot of new players. Right. I get that Tyrod Taylor's played before, but he hasn't played with these guys.
No, or he hasn't played for Todd Haley.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
DeShone Kizer last year, rookie quarterback, okay, rags to riches story, okay, coming out of Notre Dame and going in the second round and wins the starting job, okay? Didn't play at all in the fourth preseason game against the Bears. Mitch Trubisky did.
Yeah.
Okay? But why didn't Kizer play in the fourth preseason game? Here's the other thing. There's a 10-day layoff, 9 to 10-day layoff in between that last preseason game and the opening game of the season.
I see nothing wrong. Even this year, in the fourth preseason game, there's no reason why Tyrod Taylor and the first-team offense and the first-team defense, Myles Garrett and the first-team defense, shouldn't play at least a quarter.
Tony Grossi made a point on the show today because we carried it through, and he came on the show, and he said, and this is one of his keys to an effective training camp anyway, that he'll feel that Tyrod Taylor in this case and the Browns offense is ready to go for that opening game against the Steelers if when they get in that red zone, they score.
Yes.
Or they get into a 2-minute drive and they score.
Put it down, put it down the field.
Then he's fine with that.
Yep.
And again, if you go back, the Browns, they get into that red zone, field goal, or some mistake, okay, or a penalty that takes them out of the red zone. And all of that happens. First play offensively last year, false start. How does that happen?
Right, exactly.
The first play.
Yeah, right.
The first play. They've known that play since like April when they announced the game. False start.
False start.
On Joe Thomas.
Right, on all people.
Joe Thomas.
But I'm with you. I just think you've brought a lot of new guys into the mix. You traded for a lot of veterans. You've got draft picks that you're expecting to play. Offensive line, and on and on. You've got draft picks. You've got guys you brought in free agency. I mean, they really have, they didn't empty the cupboard, Jimmy, but they changed the cupboard. They changed brands in the cupboard. I mean, you've got to get cohesion, and you can only do that in walkthroughs so much. You can only do that in, the limited amount. How many of those practices are in pads? Not that many.
Well, and of course, there's nothing they can do about that because they're regulated on that.
I know, that's mandated.
I don't
that's
have the
CBA
number, but
mandated.
that's a CBA agreement. Dino, there are a lot of coaches, and I think Bill Cowher is one, that really speaks out about this, that with that CBA agreement and the restrictions they have, not only during training camp, but during the offseason and even during the regular season, how much they can hit, or if they can hit at all, okay? that he feels that fundamentally the game is really coming apart from the seams. Special teams.
Yeah, definitely.
Young players coming into the league, okay? The fundamentals of tackling, the fundamentals of just being able to play special teams, and that's how most rookies make the team, have fallen off because of the time limit in practice. How much time can you give to the special team session?
Very little.
Yeah,
because you don't have 2 days anymore.
Right. That's right.
You don't have 2 days. Javier says the NFL should give a preseason game free to Browns season ticket holders. Thank you for being a season ticket holder for all these bad years. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I wouldn't have a problem with something like that at all. Preseason. I mean, you season ticket holders. I always tip of the cap because you come back for more and more, and you pay your hard-earned money.
And but it's league-wide. I mean, nobody cuts the price.
No.
Nobody does that. I agree. There's something it just doesn't make sense for a league that is so popular and such a part of the landscape that they would sit and say, you have to pay the same amount of money for those 4 preseason games as you do a regular season game against the Steelers. It borders on absurdity, I think, when you take a look at, guys wearing like baseball caps.
Especially
backwards.
Especially that 4th preseason game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hat convention, that game. I mean, that 4th preseason game, it's like I'd like to say you're going to see, Myles Garrett play and Jarvis Landry play and Josh Gordon play. I have no guarantees. I mean, right now, probably not. Maybe you'll see Baker Mayfield play, the backup quarterback, but I mean, that's a game where the guys who will be playing against Pittsburgh will be sidelined. I hope that changes. I think that's a question that will be interesting. I'm sure Tony, I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Grossi brings it up during an early press conference during training camp that, will you approach the preseason differently in terms of how you play the guys who are going to be playing in Pittsburgh?
Well, there's a slippery slope, and you can almost play out their argument, and they say, okay, but what happens if they get hurt?
Right.
Okay, and
I get that. I get that.
That's the slippery part of it. Okay, I mean that is the part of the equation. That's the argument that they'll throw at you. There was a year when Kelly Holcomb won the starting job away from Tim Couch, and the Browns thought they were going to be really great that year. They were coming off the playoff year, and Holcomb had the great playoff game against the Steelers that they lost in the last minute when Dennis Northcutt dropped that 3rd down pass. Not that sticks in my memory.
No,
but anyway, they went out and they played their last preseason game against Atlanta, and they had not been good offensively in the preseason. And they thought they were going to have a really pretty high potent offensive attack, but it wasn't taking shape. So Butch Davis put the #1 team out there, and they are one more play before he was going to pull them out. And Ross Verba tore his ACL.
Oh, I remember that.
And so they lost their left tackle. That's the argument that they'll hit you back with. I just think that there's got to be some way you either, you have to be able to get them more ready than they have been. And their record tells you that they struggle in the opening game of the season.
Because being 4-0.
This isn't a losing streak.
Right. I mean, being 4-0 in the preseason, it doesn't matter if you get blown out in week 1. I mean, we've talked about this. It's going to be so important for this franchise to start climbing by winning opening day games, winning games at home, and winning games in their division. I mean, it's all important.
Yeah, and that's where we are with it. That's exactly right. So, it's an interesting equation that you have to go through. It would be interesting to hear different coaches on how they do it.
Yeah.
But again, teams that are established and winning, and they know who they are, and they don't have as many young players or new players, and they have had the same coordinators for years. Yeah, I can understand their comfort level.
Stability.
Sure. I mean, take a look. The Steelers, when they had Dick LeBeau as their defensive coordinator, and they had Todd Haley as their offensive coordinator. Hey, they know, those guys know that they're going to be ready.
But how many times? It's funny you mentioned Roethlisberger. How many times have you said to me that when you approach the Steelers and when you play them on opening day, sometimes they're not as sharp because Roethlisberger doesn't take quite as many reps in the preseason. Sometimes they've had Le'Veon Bell, for one reason or another, he hasn't been ready to go.
And that could be the case again this year, very easily.
And all of a sudden, there's a Pittsburgh team that's ripe to knock him off.
Yeah.
And the Browns don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, well, I think the Steelers kind of play their way into the season.
Yes.
I really do. I think that they play their way into the season. I mean, Landry Jones typically plays.
Yeah.
Most of the preseason, they had the kid Dobbs, Josh Dobbs from Tennessee, who was the rookie last year, and he plays. And of course, with Le'Veon Bell out, then the kid like James Conner, the kid from Erie who went to Pitt, will go in and he'll play a great deal. But I mean, come on, they know.
Yeah, they know.
Day,
they know who their guys are, and they generally. The guys are going to be ready, and if they're not ready in September, they're ready in December and January.
Yeah, I would say by October they're ready. Yeah.
They're ready to go. All right, great stuff. We'll keep an eye on that. In about an hour, by the way, the NBA will be handing out its awards. We do not expect LeBron James to be named MVP, despite the fact he had a brilliant year.
He is not even going to be there.
That tells you all you need to know.
He is in Jamaica.
Yeah.
No, he's in the Caribbean.
He's in the Caribbean.
He's in the Caribbean.
He's having his usual postseason vacation,
which he moved up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
He moved the vacation
up a little bit.
So that tells you that this decision is probably going to come quicker than it has.
Yeah, sooner rather than later. So yeah, we've got brace yourselves the next 2 weeks, folks. It's coming. Okay, that'll do it for us tonight. For David Herviton, for Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DiNatale. Thanks for watching the Donovan Live Postgame Show here on WKYC's Facebook Live.